Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of the 5-question interview with an expert, the Brand24 podcast designed to improve your digital marketing and social listening skills. My name is Gosia Letki and today we are talking social selling and social listening with someone who has a tremendous experience in the field. I met him on LinkedIn and approached him after quoting his words in one of our articles on the blog. He is a commercial industries business development director at Oracle UK, as well as social selling pioneer and innovator, and an avid blogger. And recently he has also published a book on social selling. I'm extremely pleased, honored, and happy to welcome Tim Hughes. Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Looking forward. We have a long weekend, so we have a public holiday on Monday, so we have a 3-day weekend. It's a really exciting time in my life at the moment with the launch of the book, which at the moment it's in pre-order. So you can't actually, you can go to Amazon and order it, but you can't actually get a copy of it. It doesn't actually ship until the 3rd of July, but pre-orders seem to be going very well at the moment. So yeah.
Okay, I will definitely ask you about the book a bit later, but right now I would like to really start with a key question regarding social selling itself. So let's get straight into it. Why is social selling important? I know you've been working in sales for more than 27 years now, and you have a huge experience with social, mobile, big data and cloud. Why anyone who does business today should take social selling seriously?
The reason for that is that social selling is the new way. It's the way that we now need to work. So if you think about what's happened, the change that's taken place with mobile. You know, when I work in London and, you know, as I get the train into London, you know, most people are sitting there using their mobiles. And they're doing that. They're watching TV programs, they're surfing the internet, they're on email, they're on social media, and so are our customers on social media. And so what happens is that what people are doing, whereas if you go back to when I started selling 27 years ago, everybody had to come and you know, to buy anything, you had to have a conversation with a salesperson. It's the only way that you could buy something. Now, what happens is that you can actually go onto the internet and you can avoid talking to salespeople. And I mean, you know, if you think about something, you know, simplistic like buying a car, when 20, 30 years ago, you had to buy it from a salesperson. Now, if you want to buy a car, you can go onto the internet, you can configure it, you can do everything. The only reason why in the UK I have to talk to a car salesman is that I want to do a part exchange, which is I want them to buy my old car off me, and I expect to try and get a little bit more discount out of a salesperson. And I think that's the case. Certainly, what we're seeing, even in large transaction values of deals, are people are actually able to go onto YouTube to watch demos. They're able to download white papers. They're able to get to access all kinds of content, and so they don't need to talk to salespeople. So the problem that salespeople have is that the research shows that people are basically going online and spending anything like 45% to 85% of the time of the sale actually online and not talking to them. So that means that they've actually lost all of that time in terms of the conversation and their ability to influence. And so that they can do things that, you know, one of the things that they could do if they wanted to is actually use social to enable them to step up into that gap, to actually spot the buyers and actually engage with them while they're online before they've actually come up with their shortlists or have actually made decisions. And that's why people need to get into social. It's where your customers are.
Okay, great. Thank you. I agree. My next question is about your book, actually. And first of all, congratulations on publishing it. Your book, Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, is ready to be pre-ordered from Amazon, as you said. It's going to be released on the 3rd of July. Can you tell us a bit more about it? What kind of insight do you share in the book?
So what we try and what Matt and I did when we started writing the book was to try and create a playbook, so really a manual that people can sit down and work through, because a lot of people, social doesn't come natural to them, or if social does come natural to them, using it in a business context doesn't come natural to them. And what we wanted to do was actually teach people how to use social and give them an ability of a way of working through chapter by chapter, to enable them to understand. Now, there's a lot of talk about getting on LinkedIn and Twitter, but really it was not just about setting up your profile. It was about how you can use these tools proactively to enable you to find opportunities, leads, and actually close deals. So we actually talk about how people can create community, how they can create their own influence, how they can, which tools to use, which tools to use. And for example, when you want to look at, if you're going for a meeting with somebody, now you can go online and actually check them out. The same as people that you're going to the meeting to will actually check you out. And how is it that we talk about this thing in the book about the relationship funnel, which is how can you use social to proactively go out and find people in the accounts that you're selling to, engage with them even before they're thinking of actually buying, and actually trying to close them down and selling them something, and doing that all without being weird. Because sometimes, if you go online, some people think that social selling is just normal selling through social, and it's not that. It's not that. It's a whole different way of selling and approaching people, and similar to what you did, which is the fact that when you found me, you approached me in a particular way. You didn't immediately try and sell me something. And just working with people. So, in the old days, you would have phoned someone up and immediately gone into this, you've got kind of 20 seconds in which to make your pitch. You could have actually already followed somebody. You could have liked what they've done. You could have read their blog. You could have, told them that you think that they've got a great blog. So the first time you actually contact them, they'll go, "Oh yeah, I know you already. You're Tim Hughes from Social. Yeah, okay, great. Let's have a conversation." And so what you do, you can actually nurture people on social that you actually want to contact and work with ahead of actually going for that call. Now, we're not saying that there's never going to be a face-to-face meeting or a Skype meeting like we're having today. But what we are saying is that you can use social. It's, if you think about social as itself, if you want to contact me on social, there's no secretary or executive assistant or voicemail getting in the way. You can contact me direct.
Okay. Are there any practical real-life examples from the business in your book?
Yes. So the book's pretty much full of anecdotes around experience that Matt and I have. Matt has 2 small children, so he actually he talks about. He wrote the chapter on influence, and he talks about the V-bloggers and how his children don't watch television anymore. They just watch YouTube, and how these people have created an influence from nothing. And we both believe that everybody can do that. Now, we're not saying that everybody can be thought leaders, but what people can do, as a salesperson. When I was selling into a particular territory, I wanted to make sure that I owned that territory, and I always wanted to get to the point where people would come to me. And what we talk about in the book is how you can do that through social, and using social as a way where you're actually getting what we call inbound. So, for example, I've had one of the top 5 banks in the UK contact me through social saying, "I want you to come and present to the board." And you kind of need, having having a LinkedIn profile and a Twitter profile, you should be able to build enough influence that you're getting that as a salesperson. And, you know, every inbound you get, that's a cold call you don't have to make.
Okay. My next question is actually about LinkedIn, at least in some way. Quite often in your interviews, you refer to the 5 pillars of social selling success. And you list those pillars as LinkedIn, social media listening, influencer marketing, collaboration, and marketing automation. Can you please tell us a bit more about social listening? Why it is important, and what is your experience with using social listening at Oracle UK?
Okay, so I mean, you know, there's, you know, from people listening, you know, they'll have all kinds of experiences in terms of social. The first thing that I always recommend people do when they first get into social is not to start tweeting or posting, is actually to listen. And a lot of people, especially, you know, some of the salespeople I deal with who haven't ever grown up with social, are actually quite scared of it. And really what they need to do is actually sit back and listen to what other people are doing. And what you do is that, you know, quite early on is that, you know, I get all of my salespeople they should be listening to their customers both at a high level. So what's the company saying? And they also should be going out to social and finding people on Twitter and LinkedIn and connecting with them. So it's very easy to follow people on Twitter without any, you know, great, you know, you can listen to whatever anybody's saying. But, you know, you should be in a position where you're linking or connecting with or finding a reason to connect with people on LinkedIn that you're in effect wanting to sell to. It doesn't mean that you actually need to go to them and say. So we talk about this thing in the book about how if you think about a standard networking event, you know, you're going to go, there's a drinks in the evening and you can go and meet people and you don't, the moment you walk in, you don't stand there and go, hi, I'm Tim and I sell these products and you can get 30% off. Most people would kind of look at you and think you were weird and then go back to doing what they were doing and then probably ignore you for the rest of the night. And it's no different from the, you know, life on social. But, you know, if you think about you going to the drinks, what would you do? You'd walk in, you look around, you'd look for people you knew. If you didn't know anybody, you'd probably go and get a drink, and then you'd go and find a group of people that you kind of looked interesting, and you'd go and stand there. The first thing you wouldn't do is go, you know, you might introduce yourself, but you wouldn't actually go there and, hey, I'm Tim and I do this and you can get 30% off. You'd probably just stand there and listen to what they were talking about, and you'd nod and maybe, you know, interject or something like that. And that's really what you're doing in the online world, is you do exactly the same. You listen to what people are saying. You know, if people want to contact me, you know, what I kind of expect would that you would have done some background reading on me about what I do, what I'm interested in. I would have expected you to have probably read my blogs or have listened to a webcast or two. And at that point, you could say, well, you know, Tim, I found that really interesting, or you wrote this, and, you know, what does that mean? And that similar to what you've just done in asking the question, saying, you know, you've done these things, which is, you know, everyone likes to, you know, we're all flattered to think that somebody's interested in you. And if you think, the amount of information I post about myself online, you know, I was out last night and someone came up to me and said, I thought you had a fantastic time on your holiday in Japan. And they said, you know, I was captivated every day. I wanted to see where else you were going and what you were doing. It looks a fantastic country. Now, they did that because they were watching me post pictures of my holiday in Japan. And they were listening to what I was saying. And of course, at that point, I'm flattered that someone's interested in me, and I immediately would give them time and in terms of talking. But you don't actually need to sell. You've done it. You can go in and immediately have what you're trying to do is you build up that relationship. And LinkedIn is a great platform for you to listen, and Twitter is a great platform for you to listen and then build up that relationship. Great.
Thank you very much. My next question is about difficulties. What is the hardest part of social selling, the biggest challenge of it?
Okay. Usually, what I find is that the biggest difficulty we have is that quite often, well, there's two difficulties. One is that that we have a lot of people that don't believe it. And even when you talk to them and talk to them and say, okay, so, just tell me how you're going to buy something. And they say, well, we just go to Google and whatever. And it's like, well, and there seems to be this complete denial that while all of us are going to Google and, whenever we buy something, we suddenly think, I'm going to get even if, I'm going to buy a new pair of shoes. And even, we probably go to the shop and actually try them on. We probably go to Google and actually look at the types of shoes that are available. Or, if you think about certainly people that are in their teens or their 20s, they're probably going to the vloggers and listening to what they're saying. And a lot of people just seem to, even though they're doing it, they don't believe that their customers are doing it. Social has changed, and the internet has changed everything, and there's still people that really don't understand or don't recognise the fact that there's been a change. And the second thing is that what happens, we see a lot, is people say, well, there's a sort of like, when with the fact that, we've all used Amazon and we've never been on a training course to use Amazon. We just generally have learnt it. A lot of people seem to think that Twitter and LinkedIn is like that. And in fact, you actually need to train people how to use Twitter and LinkedIn. You need to explain to them what best practice is. And certainly a lot of the people that I deal with, they're actually scared to post because they don't want to get it wrong. And if you're a brand or a company, the last thing you want is your employees to be posting the wrong things. So it's really key that you actually train people. And I actually do training courses where I actually sit there and go, this is how you post a tweet. This is what a good tweet looks like. Now we may go into a conversation about how to be found on social media, which is how you use hashtags. But there are a lot of people that actually are scared by it, and you do need that. Training is so key for people.
Okay, great. And all right, Tim, thank you very much for your time today. I think we are done. It has been a huge pleasure of mine to talk to you today. Before we say goodbye to our listeners, can you please tell us how people can learn more about yourself and perhaps connect with you?
Yes. So I've just started a blog, which is the Social Selling Network, which is the socialsellingnetwork.com. I'm also on Twitter, which is Timothy, Timothy, then _ and then Hughes, and Hughes is Hughes. And I'm also available because we're connected on Twitter. We're also connected on LinkedIn. So if anybody knows you, then I'm only one step away in terms of the connection on LinkedIn. We're also connected on Facebook as well. So, but LinkedIn or Twitter and my blog and my book is available for pre-order on Amazon.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. And please tweet us any questions or comments you might have at Brand24. Till the next time.